Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Clancy, I want you to know that we, many of us, support you, and we understand that, just culturally as a military officer, I'm supportive of law enforcement. I recognize you have a difficult job, that many times you or your agents or others involved with law enforcement have to make split decisions, split-second decisions, that they're going to be criticized on after the fact in many cases, that many times it's under very stressful situations, including life and death situations. And again, I think the great majority of Americans support you and others working with you and want to support you. But that only works, I think, if we recognize that that trust is based on behaviors and holding people accountable in some cases to earn that trust. And that's a bit of a concern of mine, which I'd like to elaborate on here if I could. And going back to quote a government oversight and reform report from 2015, and I'm quoting here, internal USSS data shows that morale is further harmed because many employees do not have confidence in agency leadership. Some whistleblowers told the committee they believe this is due to a culture where leaders are not held accountable. And I know that that was previous to your time or about the same time that you came on, and that's not a critique of your leadership, this quote I just gave. But I'd like to give an example of accountability and then ask you to respond if you would. And I'm not using this example because he's a friend of mine nor because he's a member of Congress. This is Jason Chaffetz. I'm using it, I would feel the same way about any U.S. citizen. And that was where there was a breach of some 60 of his personal data, 60 different items. And quoting from the Washington Post, some information that he might find embarrassing needs to get out, is what the assistant director, Edward Lowry, wrote to another director. And wanting to support you, but also recognizing that that trust and that accountability is so important. Could you tell the committee what disciplinary actions have been involved with those who were responsible for leaking this data of a private citizen, especially in regards to Director Lowry?
Congressman, there have been 42 Secret Service employees who were issued discipline with regards to that case that you referred to here. So many of those are in the appeal process and coming to the end of that appeal process. I can't speak specifically about what, because of privacy issues, what each individual received as a result of those actions. But it is something that the agency is embarrassed by, and we've said that publicly. And in terms of, are we holding people accountable and are people willing to come forward? In the year that I've been here, we are now putting out showing the discipline across the board from supervisors as well as non-supervisors to be transparent to our agency, to show that what discipline, we're not naming people in this report, but we put it up for everyone in our agency to see the type of events, misconduct that occurs, and then what type of discipline is put into effect as a result of that.
You know, I guess this is it's just a contrast with what I experienced, again, using my military experience. When we had, a concern, whatever it might be, whether we crashed an airplane or some type of security breach, I mean, we knew immediately what the outcome would be. And the discipline was very public, and it took place in a matter of days, maybe weeks. But here we are a long time later, and we don't know those who have been disciplined. We don't know the outcome of that discipline, and they're already they're on appeal. And I can, just watching this, I can understand why some members of your organization look at this and say, we do have a hard time holding people accountable, and the system protects them, it seems. And again, let's use Director Lowry as an example. I mean, I'd be curious to know what his position is. Has he been? I mean, this is fairly egregious to me. Him writing to another, some information he might find embarrassing needs to get out. This is what he wrote about a public official. And yet, again, can you tell me any discipline that has been affected upon this individual or this director?
Congressman, I'm sorry, I cannot speak to that currently until this appeal process goes through. We are committed to Title V, where there's due process, and I realize the frustration that it takes a long time to go through this process, but that's where we are today.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I actually expected that would probably be your response. But again, Director, a long time has passed. Yes, sir. And if we're going to hold people accountable, it can't be accountable 5 years down the road. in my opinion, it's got to be something more immediate than that. But once again, we appreciate what you're doing. I think you're trying to do the right thing here under maybe confined, restrictions that are imposed upon you. But my heavens, I just can't imagine that these individuals would have this type of attitude, cavalier attitude regarding, their elected representatives, and they wouldn't be held accountable. But thank you. Do you want to respond or?
No, sir.
Okay, I understand. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I yield back.